Welcome to Think Big with Dan and Qasim. Join hosts Dan Melnick and Qasim Masood as they explore big ideas, limitless possibilities, and engage with visionaries, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders who dare to dream big, get inspired, motivated, and find practical tips for personal growth. Think big, dream bigger, and ignite your potential.
All right. Welcome back, everybody. Guest today, Michael Jankie. Michael, please tell us where you're calling in from and what you do for a living with NatPat.
Sure. I'm actually calling in from Honolulu in Hawaii. So I'm on holidays with my family. Just gotten off the beach having a surfing lesson. But usually when I'm home, which is most of the time, based in Melbourne in Victoria, which is in Australia, close to a 20-hour time zone difference, I think it is. Something maybe exactly 20 hours from where I am now. And I and I say sort of because I work with a couple of friends as co-founders, run a company called NatPat, which is a consumer product goods company that I guess started off strictly as direct-to-consumer and then expanded to marketplaces, Amazon, and then expanded to retail. And while we're still sort of primarily direct-to-consumer, we expect that to sort of flip to more selling at wholesale prices to retailers to sell our product over the next few years. This has been very much one of those overnight success businesses, and we knew it would be, but probably 15 years in the make. It's sort of how I look at everything, and every next step of life, business, whatever you want to call it, tends to either be an overnight success or an overnight failure, but always many, many years and hours into those years in the making, no matter which way it falls.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And so you just kind of started 15 years ago, obviously starting with like an idea to product development to when was your official launch? I mean, like when did you make your real first initial push into D2C?
Yeah, so the D2C story, it's sort of actually an interesting one. My first D2C business started about 10 years ago, and weird career. My parents never pushed me into doing anything in particular, and so I guess I was not maybe related. I was always a bit of a rebel and liked doing things people told me I shouldn't do, or like doing the opposite of what people told me I should do. Anyway, so formally my education and my career is I went to university and I have a bachelor in dramatic art in theatre production, so backstage work. And so the first iteration of my career was actually running a professional services business. Yeah, I look back sort of fondly over those years as a whole bunch of amazing experiences in Australia, touring the world, working with all sorts of people who are, from no one knows them to, I guess, global celebrities. And it was a lot of fun and a lot of great life stories and a lot of great sort of feelings of ownership over some of the work we did. But from a business point of view, it wasn't great. But I looked at it as, I guess, my version of an MBA, a real life MBA. It may have cost me more than it would have cost to actually do an MBA to actually exit that business. But there was all these lessons learned about professional services. After that, I got into, I guess, startups. There was the startup craze, and that's probably over 10 years ago now, 12, 13 years ago, I started getting into startups thinking this could be interesting. And I guess there's this theme that's rolled throughout my entire career, which has always been, and I've had a whole bunch of businesses and, as you can guess, successes and failures. But the theme has always been, certainly when they've been a success or close to a success, has been doing something that means something to me, that I can understand, that I need, so that dog fooding idea or something where I can really sit in the seat of the consumer or the buyer. Anyway, started some software companies that were actually started really out of a need from my old, I guess, professional services business, but started into a direct-to-consumer business, which is just a drop shipping business, honestly, about 10 years ago as a way of testing some software that we'd been building. And the software did not work at all for direct-to-consumer. So that was a good lesson, but the drop shipping business did quite well, and we learned a bunch of lessons about how to make money, how to not make money, how to build a short-term business and how to build an enduring business. And we actually sold that business probably after running it for about a year and a half. The funny part of this story, or the lovely part of this story, and probably my absolute career highlight over my working career, was when we were running that business, it was very much an ads-driven business or an advertising-driven business. We helped this guy, Andre, or we found this guy, Andre, that we were looking for an analytics person, then really an ad buyer. And we'd found this guy, Andre, on Upwork. And so Gary and I, my business partner and I, who, again, a whole other story, we've known each other since we were 3 years old. But we found this guy on Upwork, Andre, and he was based in Belarus, in Minsk. And he was, I don't know, like a 21-year-old kid or something. And it was perfect. It was like, there's also this other thing where I guess my career can be absolutely put into a picture frame of, if I don't know what the industry is or what I'm doing, it's going to work better than if I have a bias of knowing too much about an industry. Anyway, so we found this 21-year-old kid. He'd just finished university. We hired him on Upwork. He had control of quite a big budget, or what we thought was quite a big budget back then. So we found him, we liked him. After a couple of months, we're like, hey, we're flying you out to Australia, because we wanted to just build like some loyalty and some trust and affinity. And also, we were paying this guy, and he was in control of, I don't know, maybe it was a few $100,000 a month of ad spend. So we thought, it's worthwhile meeting this guy face to face. Anyway, flew him out to Australia. He came, he loved it. He was like, I want to move here. And so we spent probably the next 12 months, 13 months after that, helping him and his wife, actually, because he got married along the way, move over to Australia. And a bit of a story, longer stories to it, but, helped him get the visa and get the ability to move to Australia with his wife. And he's only recently, about 12 months ago, became an Australian citizen with his wife and that child. And for me, that if I have no other success in business or life, it'll be this beautiful success story for me where, we've helped someone move from what is a tough place to live over to Australia with, now a wife and a family, have success, have freedoms, have abilities to, I guess, do so much more and, I guess, really be a part of changing, I guess, future generations. That's my biggest success. Anyway, rolling
I love that story. That's awesome.
The problem was we got him to move to Australia, and then we sold the business about 6 months after he arrived. And so when we sold the business, Gary and I said to Andre, hey, let's start another direct-to-consumer. Like, we learned all these lessons about what's good and what's bad in direct-to-consumer. Let's start one together. And it took us about 3 years. And so end of 2019, we finally stumbled on an idea that we sort of all looked at each other and went, yes, this has the elements of what will work. This will work as a business. It has all the features that will work in the model we want it to work in. Let's launch it. And that was like November 2019, and then we did nothing. And then the pandemic hit in Australia, and, like most places in the world, things got locked down, and Australia got locked down pretty harshly. And I remember mid-March to the end of March 2020, I remember watching our SaaS businesses at the time just absolutely tanked. Like, their revenues, one of our businesses, the revenues dropped 90% in 2 weeks. And it was a business that served hospitality businesses, which were all closed. And so I said to Gary and Andre, hey, maybe now's the time to throw in a bit more stress and a bit more work. And also we might be broke because, our other businesses are done. Let's just launch this now. And because we all had this strong feeling it would work and get it going. Madly, everyone agreed and was sort of successful from day one. We very much run it as a startup, even though it's a physical goods company. And we didn't know enough about physical goods in the industry. And that's probably been one of those things that has worked. Again, if you knew all the hard steps about building a business, you'd never build it, because I think it's hard, but we thought it would be easy. And it's been a wild ride. We're an 8-figure business. We're, growing really well. We're having so much fun doing it. And we're really, I guess, prioritizing and making sure that while we build a strong business with fundamentals, that we have fun doing it.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I mean, how did you even come across this idea? I mean, was this something that existed that you bought and kind of scaled from there? Or was this an original idea? How did you kind of get this idea? I mean, it's so unique and novel. I've never seen anything like this. So
yeah, so I probably haven't actually said what we do, which is, as my kids describe me to their friends, that their dad sells stickers on the internet. And that's,
I saw your really LinkedIn bio. Was that made me laugh, actually.
Yeah, I let them do it. I'm like, yeah, that is what I do. And if I'm known for the guy who sells stickers on the internet, I'll be happy with that. It's a real shame we've started selling in retailers, but because I can't claim it's just stickers on the internet. But, it's really this idea of we sell stickers, but functional stickers, or, stickers that have superpowers in a sense. And that sort of language is more around kids. So what happened, the origin of the business was, besides looking for something that fit with direct to consumer, I was discussing with Gary in our office, in our SaaS office one day, about how Sadie, my 1.5-year-old, gets bitten by mosquitoes, and her arms or wherever she's bitten just blows up in welts, like she has an allergic reaction to it. And we just started jamming about, Gary was like, don't use DEET, don't use OFF, don't use one of those things. It's just really bad. Like, it's bad for kids. It's got all these chemicals. Don't do it on stage. And I'm like, yeah, but what's the solutions? Like, you can't carry a citronella candle around with a 1.5-year-old. You can't burn coils. You can't do this. And we just started jamming and started Googling and started going, what are the options? And it's like, clothes that are infused with this other chemical, which is like, don't do that. Like, it's been shown to cause brain damage. Don't do this. And we just started looking at really what applications for citronella were. And after a couple of hours jamming, it was like, hey, let's just put like a citronella candle but in a sticker. Like, kids love stickers. And it's like, we can build this as a business. This fits all our goals of something that works for direct to consumer. It's easy to offer free shipping because it's so lightweight. The cogs on it are really good because we can manufacture for X dollars and have enough money in there to spend money on ads. The targeting makes sense, like in terms of targeting parents or mums for the product for their children that's not overly expensive, but we understood that market as parents ourselves. We understood certainly mosquito problem as a literal parent of a child that was trying to solve this problem. And it was just like, it'll work. We knew it would work. And everything sort of iterated from there, right? It's been like, hey, let's have fun stickers. And, I'm not sure that anyone will see this video, but, I'm sitting in the hotel room, so I've put on a virtual background. And it's like where the brand has evolved from, I guess just us sort of scratching together ideas now to going a little bit more professional. But originally using just sort of off the shelf, stock imagery of emojis on our stickers. But we really wanted to, I guess, lean into the creative side of it. And I'm a big art collector. And back in my rebellious days, I loved to collect street art. So it was like street art. We used to graffiti on the street or stencil on the streets, which Melbourne is where I'm from, is famous for. I wanted to use street art. Like I love street art. We started designing our new characters and started thinking about new characters. And this was one of these joyous moments is, I convinced my two co-founders that we should use this street artist that I'd been collecting for 16 or 17 years. We should get him to design all our character set. And it's all just part of this fun of what we're doing and enjoyment. And actually the characters ended up all getting named after our children, which is something little that no one else will probably ever know about. But, until my kids start asking me for royalties. But it's all just fun. And I think I think if consumers can sense how much fun we're having, there's, infectiousness to that, where they just by default get to come on that ride and get to put themselves in that same canvas or that same picture and enjoy it. Plus, we're solving real problems, and we're sort of saying, before you medicate or before you use chemicals, start with a sticker. If you can use essential oils infused in stickers to help with sleep, do that before you start, taking sleeping pills or melatonin gummies or that sort of thing. And it's a good natural way of doing it. I think as adults, I'll do anything. Like the truth is, I'll take any drug that a doctor prescribes me, but I'm always much more sensitive if it's for my children. Mm-hmm. Like it's almost a thing of like, if something bad happens to me, such is life. Right. But I can't do that to my kids. And that's exactly what we've solved.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I know I obviously noticed the citronella candle on the website. And then I don't know if I think it was lavender was the other one. How many SKUs do you have out there now?
It's a great question because we're building out the SKUs as variants. We've got about 10, 11, 12 products and a handful more in the pipeline coming out. We started off as one product company. It worked. So we became a 2-product company in the same mosquito niche. And then we went, what we're really doing well here is we seem to have nailed building a materials company that can act as a diffuser for essential oils without having to plug it into power or heat it up or anything like that. So we really leaned into what else can be done as a personal diffuser for essential oils, and sort of tied that into, I guess, sort of, an internal motto we have, which is everything we do has to be a playful way of solving, one of life's little problems. And so we've just sort of leaned into that, and we're doing a bit more. We're actually about to release a tick repellent product because, people freak out about ticks far more than they do about mosquitoes, but it's not a big market. We'll see what happens.
It's a big problem where we are. And maybe it's just like mass hysteria from the media or something. I don't know. But there's every spring when people start going hiking again in upstate New York, where I am, there's always this big thing with deer ticks and all these like some new novel disease and all this stuff. So that makes sense. You'd go that direction. And I guess I'm curious too. I mean, obviously you started this purposely as a D2C business and met all your criteria for what you believe to be, the characteristics of a successful, D2C business. Why go into e-com or why go into wholesale now? I mean, have you just been approached with some opportunities that seem to make sense, or what's kind of leading you down that path nowadays?
There's a bunch of facets to it. So the first facet is we run this company very lean, and that's not for monetary reasons as much as what we like doing. So as founders, we're doers or we're makers. We're not managers. And so we've been trying to run a small team that we can, I guess one of those things where we can point to and say, hey, look what I did. I found this artist I wanted to work with and I did this. Or, my kid had this problem with this product. So, we got the formulation and solved that problem. We don't want to manage teams and that sort of thing. But moving into retail, it is a growth. It is a team growth issue. So we have to grow team. Mm-hmm. So we delayed it at the start, but then we actually initially went, hey, let's get ourselves into a whole bunch of independent retailers, independent grocers, organic stores, small pharmacies, those sort of things. And the reason for doing that was not for sales, but actually for branding. We thought, we started to see copycats pretty quickly, but we thought, if we can be more than a website, if customers can actually say, hey, you're in store, see us in store, at least see promotions that we're in store, it would add some legitimacy. And the legitimacy part, it's sort of a funny thing. It probably took us a year and a half before we decided that we were actually a legitimate company, like internally, which was well past $10 million of sales before we went, yeah, all right, this is a real business. I'll get to that later. So we signed on a bunch of small independent retailers. We signed on probably a couple of thousand before we went, this is actually quite profitable. So we can actually make decent money here. And most people don't go after those sort of retailers when they're pushing a retail strategy, because it's like, we're going one of us to many customers rather than, sort of going, larger accounts, larger number of stores. But we're quite good at, and I guess we learned that over our SaaS years, quite good at reaching out to do smaller sales profitably. Anyway, so we did that. Then we actually wanted to avoid mass retailers for a while. And part of that was because the cash flow is very good on direct to consumer. Cash flow is also very good on small retail because we charge them up front as well. But we started working with some mid-market retailers. In the US, that means store counts of, called 100, 150 up. And that was going quite well. In fact, selling better in mid-market type retailers than small and independent retailers. And then over the years, we just took approaches from large retailers, brokers, always saying, hey, you should look at Target, you should look at Walmart, you should look at Costco, those sort of places. And we actively avoided it. So just to get to the end of this, we're in Target at the moment. We're in about 1,700 Target stores, which is our first mass retailer. We just started in January this year. But we almost, the folks we're working with, wanted to kill us because we almost pulled the plug on that a number of times after Target had said, yes, we will range you. But we were fearful of actually appearing on the Nielsen data. So our sales data, particularly of mosquito repellent, was more or less unknown until we went into mass retail, and like the Nielsen's and the data companies of the world start tracking all the sales and start getting all the sales data. So we are now heavily on the radar. So, even right now, as soon as we start selling, and we're selling well beyond expectations and forecasts, we're getting approaches. Every week we're getting a handful of approaches from various types of firms wanting to chat. And so what we knew is as soon as we went into mass retail, we had to be moving a little bit faster, have a bigger team, that sort of thing. So that's why we avoided it. But also, I think as a consumer goods company, I very much think that, you mature, and, when you're novel in year one, you might be sort of novel in year two as more people are finding out about you. But once you have saturation of people knowing about you, I think consumers expect to see you in retail where they want to buy you, not have to order you necessarily from your own direct-to-consumer store or from Amazon. They want to walk into a Target and say, oh, yeah, there's that product. I know it. I want it. Not necessarily have to think, oh, this is a niche thing that I have to order.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, especially with kind of lower ticket items like these, is waiting a few days for the shipping with something like this is I think the convenience is a big driver for products like this. Maybe something higher ticket, if it's maybe $100+ dollars. I don't think people mind waiting or ordering it online. But this is definitely, I could also be seeing it being kind of just like an impulse off the shelf buy too in a place like Target. People go to Target for that reason predominantly. It's become a meme almost, like going to Target, buying a bunch of stuff like you didn't have on your list. You got 3 things on your list. You go to Target, you leave with $1,000 worth of stuff, right? So no, that's awesome. And have you found anybody? I know you mentioned you've seen some people come up trying to do kind of the same things. Have you found that happening more often now as you become bigger in retail and the data's kind of out there? How do you kind of grapple with that? It's such a novel idea. Do you have legal protections in place for those kinds of things, or what kind of things do you grapple with on that side?
Excellent question. It's really hard and it's disappointing, and we probably put too much headspace into going, oh my God, this company has copied us all the way down to the exact measurements of our packaging. And often it's we'll be diving into and going, what's the legals on this? How can we look at this? Where can we, get revenge? But sometimes we just look at it and go, it's too small. And it's nice to have been the market maker, but all these companies are just trying to take a share of the market we have literally created. And it's disappointing. It's our advertising is generating their sales, their awareness, our awareness marketing has generated their, profits or revenues. How do we deal with it? We just stay a step ahead with branding. Whatever people are bringing out, it's just it's what we were doing 2 years ago. There's certainly a move with, our new illustrations that we have that's we want to build a world. Gary, one of my business partners, said if we can leave a legacy with his business, he'd like there to be a NatPat land like there's a Disneyland. He'd like there to be a cartoon series about NatPat. It's let's make something that's bigger than just an emoji on a sticker, which is where we started. And so we lean into branding really heavily. In terms of what's patentable or trademarkable, I'm sure there are things that are patentable and trademarkable, and we have some of those. There's always ways around these things you can get around it. There's only so much of our product we can patent. Because we use naturally occurring essential oils.
Right. It is really unfortunate. And you get put in a position, especially as a growing brand and company where, even if you do find somebody who's completely ripping you off, are you going to hire an attorney to go through a year-long process to try to litigate against that? Is that even worth it? It's probably not. So I think we have the right perspective to just say, no, we're just going to stay a step ahead, just stay more innovative with our branding, make sure everybody knows we are the market leader in this. We were the original creators of this thing. I think that's really all you can do, unfortunately, in many instances with products like this. So I'm glad you're not hemorrhaging money he's trying to like on like a campaign to go against like these little guys that are just trying to sell, make a quick buck on your own idea and your own advertising. It's unfortunate, but unfortunately, yeah, it's just like it's almost unavoidable, it seems sometimes. Then I mean, unless you're like one of the biggest players out there, they just have infinite money and infinite attorneys to just go after anybody who even comes close to matching what something does, or it's in a for-profit YouTube video, like you're done. You're gonna get a letter soon. I appreciate that insight, because these are the types of things a lot of the entrepreneurs that listen to the podcast to just understand going in. I mean, you can't always just go on like a legal tirade every time. Like you might even be in the right, and you're very sure that you're in the right, because it might just not be cost effective to go after and go down that route. So like there are other ways to get around those things, and even to go through the process of doing patents and trademarks can be very expensive. I mean, you get lawyers involved, you go through that process, could be a year later, and then God forbid they say no, you spent all the money and the time, and they're back in the same position as you were before. So I think you have a really healthy.
That's exactly it.
Exactly.
My just last thing on competitors, our biggest fear is, it's like this thing we know our product's better than what competitors will copy us and stand up with. But when you are looking at a packet on a shelf or on a website, you don't know that. So our biggest risk and fear is that someone tries competitor's product and it is inferior, and they are turned off the whole concept of what we're doing. That's our worry. We're constantly going, how do we just make sure that if they're going to try a product, they try ours first? Because if they try our competitors first, that's it. We're like, no one's got that customer. Yeah, no, that definitely makes sense. And I guess last couple of questions. One, I guess just to follow up on that. I mean, how do you ensure that you're, kind of doing that? I mean, obviously, you're the main player in this space. You're the original here. So obviously you're probably generating more revenue through your brand than all these other people trying to come in and just kind of scrape off of you. So obviously the advertising presence and your retail presence is larger than those. So in that way, I can see it kind of happen naturally. People kind of know where the legitimacy is in brands like this. But what kind of other steps do you take to ensure that people know, that you're like the original and the main player in this space? I mean, how do you kind of grapple with that, I suppose? Yeah. So in the online space, I mean, we push a lot for reviews. And the reason we do that is just by sheer volume of numbers. Like, if you're looking at Amazon listing, whatever has the most reviews, good or bad, like there's a point in a consumer understanding that is probably the most well-known, the most, the one everyone knows. But I think like the truth is we're doing so much advertising and marketing that we expect that consumers see our mark. If they're in the market by our product or are interested in a product that's in our form factor, now they know us and they know our distinctive marketing. They know what we're doing, and even down to our stickers now come in a really unique shape. So even walking around the street, outdoor festival or whatever it might be, that people see other consumers wearing our product, it should be really obvious what's our product and what is a cheaper copy of that product. Yeah. So, I mean, just from like quality control and sheer numbers, I mean, I know I feel that way whenever I'm on my Amazon or anywhere kind of marketplaces and see like, the top thing has 50,000 reviews, and like, obviously some of them are going to be bad, like things happen, it's whatever, but at least that it's legitimate, it's going to be fulfilled, and like this is something that's been in the market for a while, so it's clearly tried and true, and it's probably one of the originals. So I think that's really good perspective on that. Again, just like the kind of savvy ways you can ensure that you're legitimizing your brand and when people are trying to scrape off of it, because in the kind of like packaged goods space, it's such a risk that you take anytime you get into that kind of space with a business. And I think those are great and like cost-free almost ways to ensure that you're legitimizing yourself, especially in the online channels where it's really hard to differentiate. So hey, Michael, I just want to say thank you for coming on. I really appreciate your time, especially you being on holiday in Hawaii. I really appreciate you taking time out of your day and your family to speak with me for a little bit. So I just want to give you a quick opportunity as well, just to plug your website, any ways people can keep in touch with you, or any maybe potential people interested in working with you with the company, or want to place an order. Let everybody know how to stay in touch with you guys. Yeah, for sure. I mean, our website is really simple, natpat.com, natpat.com. Amazon, you can find us. Instagram, Facebook @natpat is how you can find that. I'm on Twitter as, I think it's Michael Jankie. Awesome. If you want to reach out to me, michael@natpat.com. Really simple. Love to hear from people. I generally mark anything as junk and push it to spam. We have a position in the company that whoever emails us deserves a response. So yeah, looking forward to hearing from anyone. Love that. Awesome. Michael, I just want to say thank you again and wish you the best of luck, continued success. I love what you're doing. Yeah, I really appreciate you coming on again, man. Thanks for all the insights, and enjoy the rest of your holiday as well. Thanks for coming on. Thanks so much, Matt. Great chatting. Thanks, Michael. Thanks, everybody.